In 1227, a terrible news spread across Asia like fire. Genghis Khan was dead. The warlord who built the largest land empire ever was suddenly gone forever. The death of such a strong leader brought confusion. His generals, soldiers, and family were unsure what would happen to the mighty Mongol Empire now. Thousands of warriors stood still. Who would lead them now? Could anyone fill the huge space left by a man who had shaken the world with fear and respect? The news pulled the world into silence. Genghis Khan was more than a man. He was a living storm, feared by cities and kings from China to Europe. He had dreamed of ruling the entire world and had taken giant steps toward doing it. His death now left that dream hanging in the air, unfinished. People ask the same question everywhere. What happens to a storm when its center is taken away? Can the wind still blow without its root? Many looked to Genghis Khan's children. Among them was Ogedei, his son. Though not the oldest, he now had the heavy job to carry his father's name. Ogedei knew the world watched him. Could he lead the wild army his father formed? Could he keep the empire alive and growing? A hard path waited. Even before becoming Great Khan, Ogedei stood in the deepest shade of his father's giant legacy. The eyes of history were now fully on him. The Mongol army was not done. With or without Genghis, it still had enemies to fight and lands to take. The world had not seen the end of its power. Every soldier knew that their journey was far from finished. They had followed a great leader before. Now they waited for the next to rise. Some feared the empire would fall apart. Others believed this was just the start of a new chapter filled with fire, battles, and glory to come. Born around 1186, Ogedei was the third son of Genghis Khan and his wife Berte. He grew up in the Mongolian grasslands and learned the skills needed for war and life as a nomad. Ogedei was not the oldest son, but Genghis chose him to be the next ruler. This choice surprised many, but Genghis saw wisdom and peace in him that others lacked. Before becoming Great Khan, Ogedei proved his value in fights during his youth. His father gave him land, soldiers, and training to prepare him for future leadership. When Genghis Khan died in 1227, Ogedei did not become ruler right away. A special meeting called the Kurultai had to be held first to choose the next Great Khan. The Kurultai brought together important family members and leaders. It took time to gather them, so Ogedei's brother Tolui acted as leader for 2 years. In 1229, the Kurultai finally confirmed Ogedei as the new Great Khan. His brothers supported this, making the decision easier and helping to keep peace in the empire. Ogedei now ruled the largest empire anyone had ever seen. His job was not only to fight wars, but also to hold many lands together and guide so many different people. He was good at choosing smart people to help him rule. These helpers managed different parts of the empire so Ogedei could focus on bigger goals. The early years were not simple. Ogedei faced problems from outside enemies and also had to keep peace at home. Ruling a giant empire was never going to be easy. After Ogedei became Great Khan, his first goal was to continue Genghis Khan's war with the Jin Dynasty in northern China, which had started many years before. The Jin had moved their capital to Kaifeng, but Ogedei's forces struggled to win battles at first. One of the worst defeats happened at Dachangyuan in 1229. At Dachangyuan, only 400 Jin horsemen led by a monk defeated 8,000 Mongol warriors. This showed Ogedei that success would not come as easily as before. Even though the early steps in China were hard, Ogedei did not stop. He believed his empire had to finish what Genghis started against the Jin Dynasty. To turn things around, he worked with the Song Dynasty. They were also enemies of the Jin, angry about land they had lost in past years. This new friendship helped the Mongols. Together with the Song army, Ogedei pushed farther into Jin land and reached their capital, Kaifeng, in 1232. Ogedei stayed at Kaifeng for a while, but later returned to other work. He trusted his generals to lead the battle, especially a skilled man named Subutai. Subutai had also served Genghis Khan and proved his strength in many wars. Now, Ogedei gave him full control over the fight against the Jin. This showed how Ogedei led through smart choices rather than by fighting himself. He used strong leaders around him to finish campaigns successfully. After reaching Kaifeng in 1232, the Mongol army surrounded the city. Ogedei soon returned home, trusting his general Subutai to lead the siege to its end. Subutai was one of the most trusted commanders in the empire. He knew how to break strong cities and push the siege forward with careful planning and force. Inside Kaifeng, people faced hunger and sickness. As the months passed, the city became weak. The Jin rulers could no longer hold on under this hard pressure. Because of the siege, the Jin Emperor Aizong left Kaifeng. He ran to the city of Kaiju to try and protect what was left of his kingdom. A Jin general stayed in Kaifeng. His name was Wanyan Chenglin. When he saw there was no hope, he gave up and let the Mongol army take the city. The Mongols and their Song allies then turned to Kaiju. The new target would be the Jin Emperor himself, who now had nowhere else to go. The Mongol army began a new siege on Kaiju. This time, it did not last very long because the Jin army was already weak and tired from past defeats. Subutai showed no mercy. He quickly broke through Kaiju's defenses. Emperor Aizong did not wait to be caught and chose to end his own life. With the fall of Kaiju, the Jin Dynasty was finished. The Mongols and Song forces took the area and split the land among themselves for control. While Subutai crushed the Jin in the east, Ogedei turned his eyes west. He remembered the old conflict that Genghis Khan had with the Khwarezmian Empire. This empire once ruled large parts of Central Asia, but Genghis had already damaged it badly. Ogedei wanted to make sure it would not rise again. To do this, Ogedei sent a strong general named Chormakhan. He gave him a big army, ready to move through the Middle East and crush all remaining threats. Chormakhan's army had between 30,000 and 50,000 soldiers. With this strong force, he began taking over lands in Persia and a region called Khorasan. These lands were once under the rule of the Khwarezmians. Many cities gave up quickly rather than fight the feared Mongol army in their cruel ways. The Mongol method was fast and hard. Any city that did not listen was either destroyed or left with nothing, a warning to all who might resist. One rich city named Isfahan tried to hold out. It had thick walls and brave men to guard it, but the Mongols simply placed soldiers outside to wait. Instead of wasting time, Chormakhan moved his army south. He went on with the campaign, knowing Isfahan would fall on its own before long. This showed how skilled the Mongols were. They did not always attack strong walls. Sometimes they let hunger or fear win the battle for them. Chormakhan's western march added huge lands and people to the Mongol Empire. This expansion made the empire reach new corners of the known world. Ogedei's plan worked. The West now feared the Mongols almost as much as the East did. Land after land fell under the rule of the great Khan. The Mongols used heavy force and smart planning. They scared some enemies into giving up, while breaking the rest through deadly attacks and speed. As the Western campaign grew, Ogedei focused not just on war, but also on control. He expanded the Yam, a mail system with stations that kept the empire connected. Riders used fresh horses at each station, moving across great distances at high speed. This allowed Ogedei to receive news from battles without being there. Thanks to the Yam network, commanders could quickly send updates. It helped the empire act fast and stay united even when armies were far apart. Ogedei knew his strength was not in fighting, but in leading. He trusted his generals to win wars while he focused on managing the giant empire. He gave orders, planned goals, and solved serious issues from the capital. This made sure battles happened smoothly, even when he was not present. This kind of rule is called delegation, giving tasks to others to do. It saved time and used the talents of skilled people like Subutai and Chormakhan. The Mongols were always on horseback. Their armies moved fast and could appear in places before anyone expected. This speed surprised their enemies. Quick movement was more than a skill. It was their best weapon. Using horses and simple tools, they could fight, travel, and send messages easily. They had no big castles, but they took down those who did. Mobility, moving fast and light, was key to winning battles and growing the empire quickly. Ogedei's trusted commanders continued to push borders. While he stayed at the center, they reached new places and brought more land into the empire. These generals were more than fighters. They knew how to handle people, plan attacks, and hold new lands. Ogedei chose them with great care. Using strong leadership and fast communication, the Mongol Empire grew larger. It moved like one giant machine built for power and order. After victory in the east and west, the Mongols turned to government. Ogedei began to split the new lands with allies like the Song Dynasty to keep peace and order. Some areas were ruled directly by the Mongols, while others were shared. This careful system made sure local leaders supported Ogedei and could follow his rules. By working with allies instead of ruling every land alone, Ogedei was able to lead more people without creating problems between groups or causing rebellion. The empire under Ogedei grew larger than his father had imagined. New lands in China, Persia, and Central Asia were now part of one powerful rule. This wide reach brought many cultures and people together. They spoke different languages, had different pasts, and now all answered to one great Khan. Ogedei needed smart ways to control them. He kept local customs but added rules from the Mongols to make sure the empire moved in a single direction. Ogedei also worked hard to build a strong system inside the empire. He fixed roads, added safe places to rest, and improved the yam to help trade and travel. Traders from China to Europe now used Mongol roads. This brought goods, news, and ideas between faraway places and helped the economy grow fast. Because of better transport and safety, people trusted the trade routes more. Even cities not under Mongol rule earned money by serving traders. Ogedei ordered the building of new inns, bridges, and markets. These helped not only merchants, but also yam riders and soldiers during long travels across lands. Some towns grew big and busy because they were in the center of trade. People came from many nations to buy, sell, and meet under Mongol protection. These new buildings also gave jobs to locals. In this way, Ogedei used building projects not just for power, but also to create peace and unity. Ogedei also looked to the future. He began planning for Western Europe, sending scouts and diplomats first, before moving large parts of the army there. He wanted to learn about the new areas before war started. By understanding the land, weather, and kings, he hoped to win without too much cost. His generals started early movements in Russia and nearby lands. These steps showed that the Mongol dream of world conquest was still alive. Ogedei's rule stood on the shoulders of giants. His father, Genghis Khan, left behind a name feared across the world and a task too great for most to complete. As Great Khan, Ogedei worked to grow that legacy. He had already expanded the empire far beyond what his father had reached, building on a strong foundation. With every city taken and every road built, Ogedei proved he was not only a son of Genghis, but also a ruler in his own right, capable of shaping history himself. Under Ogedei, the Mongol Empire reached its greatest height. It covered huge areas, stretching from China to the edges of Eastern Europe in less than 2 decades. His armies crossed mountains and deserts, taking over cities that had stood for centuries. No land seemed too far or too strong to stop the Mongol push. The empire's speed and strength came from a well-organized system, brave generals, and the clear goal of bringing the known world under one supreme command. Not all remembered Ogedei only for war. His changes helped daily life, from trade and messages to roads and safe stops. Signs that peace also mattered to him. He showed that power did not just come through fear, but also through smart planning. He linked towns and cities in ways that helped grow business and unity. Ogedei's rules touched even faraway villages. His impact crossed battlefields and became part of the everyday world, shaping how people lived and worked. Even after his death in 1241, Ogedei's name stayed strong. Later rulers followed roads he began and used ideas he tested during their own rule of the empire. The systems he built kept working for years. Messages still traveled fast, trade still flowed, and people still remembered his time with respect and pride. Though not as famous as his father, Ogedei's rule was steady and rich in results. His time showed that strength could lead, but wisdom could last much longer. The Mongol Empire Ogedei led changed world history. It opened lands to new ideas, connected old powers, and pushed the limits of what empires could be. Many things we take for granted today, fast roads, big trade, strong rule, had early roots in the time of Ogedei and the works he left behind. His rule helped turn the image of Mongols from raiders to rulers. The shadow of giants formed a path, and Ogedei became a giant in his own powerful way.